Exciting Sunday morning. We are here once again to start off this week's edition of This Morning on ITV. I am Wilson Omasha. This is what we do from Monday, begging your pardon, from Sunday to Thursday. On Fridays, preaching English version, good morning from Benin. But right now, we are taking a look at the clamor once again for dissolution of the zoning formula. Now, that is a cry by Governor El Rufai, but Odris Okalo said, look, we just can't stop zoning. But everyone, they have their own strong point. They have the reasons why they choose to clamor for or against the formula. Some says it's healthy, others says forget it, it isn't healthy. If you strike off zoning, so to speak, it will be one region ruling, having juicy position. Well, others are saying, come, whether you strike it off or not, zoning is dead because of what we are seeing in this country. Now, these are opinions of various stakeholders. What are your views? What are your opinions on this? With me here in the studio to do wonderful analysis on this discourse, starting the introduction by my extreme left. I have a legal practitioner. He occupied a civil servant, so I should call him Esquire, so to speak. And as Ajib, any government in power, don't mind me. Join me to welcome Ayodeji Ogedegbe Esquire. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
I appreciate your comment.
Thanks. To our viewers, good morning and happy Sunday and a new week.
All right. So very close to Ayodeji Ogedegbe Esquire is a vibrant youth. When you talk about commenting on public issues, both local and international, he's well grounded. Let me to welcome Fares Okpere. Fares, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
And of course, very close to me is a legal practitioner, an entrepreneur. When you talk about topical issues, talk about law, talk about local international politics, is well grounded. Let me to welcome Barrister Patrick Awo Osaigi. Welcome to the show, sir.
My pleasure, Winston. Thank you for having me. And hello, viewers at home.
All right, here we are again, clamor upon clamor, Nigerians. According to or some persons, we are not tired of talking about the same issues over and over again, especially when we have vested interest. Zoning formula, sharing formula. Governor El Rufai says, look, this zoning of a thing is not helping us as a nation to grow. Look out for competence, squash the zoning thing. On the other hand, Senator Odris Okalo, former governor also of Abia City, said, look, zoning has come to stay in Nigeria. You just can't do anything without it because of our complex nature. But in these two opposing forces, so to speak, how do you feel about the zoning formula?
Thank you, Winston. Zoning, as it stands, zoning formula, you know, when you zone, you're trying to show there's equilibrium and there's some level of everybody all encompassing, as it were. But if we go by the Constitution does not recognize zoning, you know, and if we begin to converse, in as much as it's a gentleman arrangement, so to say, that it had been over time, you know, we're looking at it from that angle. Now, first and foremost, it's not a constitutional issue. It has no basis with the Constitution of the Federal Republic. It does not have any basis for us to begin to talk zoning as a matter of maybe an issue of constitution as 1999 constitution as amended. It's not there. Now, but when we want to look at it again on a gentleman arrangement, bringing an issue of the southeast and west and north and the south-south as it were, you know, you guys should come on board. Let's come and have this arrangement. It's your turn today. It's my turn tomorrow, and all of that. It would have been a good idea. But I've come to understand that the zoning, as it were, itself has failed. In my candid opinion, it has failed. Over time, we have been talking zoning. Some time ago, MK Abiola had wanted to be president in the 90s, you know, and it's, you know, it didn't become. He eventually died. Now, when this reconciliation of coming, you know, let's end the military dictatorship, let us of Abdusalami came on board and the constitution we have today are fine and good. We say, well, for us to compensate the Yoruba people, we need a Yoruba man. You know, we need to compensate them by bringing a Yoruba man. I think Nigeria said, okay, so fine and good, and Olusegun Obasanjo came on board. And then he came on board and he became president. Now, this zoning stuff would have been good if maybe, perhaps, another person outside Obasanjo, so to say, somebody who had not been there before. We're talking about zoning. It's just zoning amongst friends from the east, south, and west. Are we looking at the other persons or other people doing their thing, not necessarily being in active politics? Now, that one came and we saw all the trouble that followed it. Before long, Yaradua came. It's the turn for the north. It must go. Power must move to the north. Unfortunately, he passed on. Now, the next man was Jonathan, as it were. And then we look at all this zoning. We say it's our turn. Jonathan came on board. I even heard Festus Keyamo saying that, why is PDP not projecting a South-South person to contest Buhari if really zoning is not working as it were? Why are you not bringing a Northerner when you were canvassing for Jonathan Abinisho? Now, these are good questions and good positions, but my own take is this. What has zoning done for Nigeria?
All right.
What benefit have we recouped from zoning? Okay. It has not benefited anybody.
All right.
So in my own position, I think zoning should be thrown away and forgotten about.
It should be thrown away and forgotten about.
Yes,
Perez,
it has not benefited us in any way.
You heard him, he said zoning should be thrown away and forgotten about because, according to his own opinion, it hasn't helped Nigeria or blessed Nigeria in any way. Over to you.
Yeah, well, what I find with the whole issue is, first of all, zoning is not backed by the Constitution. And secondly, I find it very disturbing when politicians come out. One year they will say this, and the next year they will say that. You know, a few years ago when President Jonathan was contesting in the 2015 election, El-Rufai was one of those who was campaigning for Buhari with this same zoning, that it is the turn of the North, that the North had not had power for a long time, that the time power came to the North, it only stayed for about 3 years of Yaradua. He died, and Jonathan was supposed to return power to the North. And then he was canvassing and I mean, using that as his point. But now he's interested in contesting the 2023 elections, and suddenly he wants to put zoning away. In a multicultural country like Nigeria, in a diverse country like Nigeria, where we have divergent political interests, you know, it is imperative that we find a way to share power between the different zones of the country, because Nigerians are very diverse. We have a largely Muslim north of the country and a largely Christian south of the country. And, you know, we are very different in culturally and in our thoughts. So it's the only way we can share power easily is to bring it to the south, take it to the north, so that there's this unity, you know, there's this calmness. In a situation where you say, okay, there's no zoning, you only have power in one part of the country. And that's what we saw between 1960 and 1999. You know, I know there was a brief stint where power was in the southeast for 6 months or so before the coup d'etat that removed the then head of state. You know, but since 1999, we have this stability because we had zoning, where power remains in the south, then it goes to the north. Even though it's not constitutional, but the political parties, the political actors in Nigeria recognize that this is a good way of moving power from the north to the south, and everybody will accept it. But what we should not also throw away is the fact that what we need as a country, first of all, is competence. We should not underestimate that. We need competent leaders. We should not also trade competence on the altar of zoning. In as much as we need zoning right now, considering our political structure in the country, considering our cultural background, we need zoning. We also need to put into consideration that we also need competent leaders, because that's one thing we lack. That's one thing Nigeria does not have right now. We don't have leaders who can drive genuine change in this country. Now, in the last 10 years, or the last 15 years, we've not had a proper census. So there's no a proper database in this country. So we don't even know, we're just guessing that Nigeria is 200 million people. There's no proper database that says, oh, we did a proper census to tell the figures, the actual figures of Nigerians, those in the north, those in the south. What we had then to tell you, the north, you have states in the north where a local government is larger than the whole of Edo, you know, and when you go to that local government, the population of that local government is not, in fact, the local government chairman does not even go there, he doesn't even live there, he lives in Abuja. You know, you go there and the population of the place is not even is not even 1/10 of what you have in the lowest, in the least populated local government in Edo, for example. You understand? So you have this imbalance because there is no proper data, there's no proper census. And what we need, first of all, is put all these things in order so that when we now talk about competence, you know, you don't favor any particular geopolitical zone. For example, if you say, okay, there's no zoning, for example, now, we all know with the current structure of Nigeria right now that the power will only remain in the north. It will only remain in the north because right now...
If there is no zoning?
Yes, if there's no zoning because we have a system where numbers have been allocated to some states and local governments, fictitious numbers have been allocated to them when they did census that were, those census, I think the last census was 1992. Those census were not digitalized. They were just census where people just fill forms. And sometimes, just because people wanted allocation to their zones, they just filled fictitious numbers and put it out there, and we call it census. Right now, nobody knows the actual number of people we have in the country. We have to put all those into perspective.
All right. I'll come back to you, Ferez. Ayodeji Ogedegbe Esquire, sir. You've heard both of them. One is saying, look, zoning hasn't helped us, and the other one talked about, for balance, so to speak, of power sharing, zoning should be a thing that Nigerians should be looking up to for everyone to get equal spread of power, politically speaking. How do you feel about their views?
I appreciate their various views. And I think zoning should not be jettisoned on the altar of it being alien to the Constitution. Agreed, it's a gentleman arrangement. If we must say zoning should be jettisoned, then we should equally think of federal character being stopped too. Then the northerners, the score into federal unity schools, where they give lower marks to cut-off marks to the northerners to enter unity schools, and give a higher cutoff to the southerners should equally be stopped.
Absolutely.
So, but be that as it may, I think zoning to a larger extent will help us in the south. Otherwise, we will be out of governance in the rest of our lifetime. Because, like one of us said, I would let me for clarity or without prejudice say the census of 1992 was done in favor of the North. I don't want to be quoted because I have a lot on ground. But be that as it may, still, I want to say that if zoning is not done, we in the South will lose a great deal. Even now that the zoning is on, I agree that the crops of officers at the federal level are dominated by the northerners, the army chiefs, the police, name the various agents, security and all, they are all manned by the police, by the northerners. So I will converse that while we retain zoning, we should equally restructure the sharing formula as per zone. I remember each state used to produce a minister, at least. Let all these principal offices be equally shared. Though, in the same vein, the zoning pattern has not even helped, even at the state and local level. For example, not too quite long, we had a leader from a donut who was in office for 8 years. From the same donut, if you go take a trip around a donut, for example, you see that the people of Owan East, Owan West, and Akoko Edo were marginalized. For example, the school in Afuze, Institute of Physical Education, Afuze, that was established by Ogbomudia, someone from the southern district of Bender State or Midwest then, now Edo State, funded that school because of the terrain and all, made that school the synosia of all eyes in Nigeria. Even people came from abroad to come and camp in Afuze. They called it Olympic Village. In fact, Miracle Center for training. Gowon came to commission that very school. As we speak now, a proclamation was given to 2 universities in Edo State. Tayo Akpata, then College of Education, Ekeadolo, was flourishing. The Institute of Physical Education, Afuze, was flourishing, and it was made the campus of Ekeadolo. But as I speak, the same proclamation given to both universities without prejudice, the one that was not in existence is now flourishing, whereas those that were flourishing before are dead. In fact, if you go to Ekeadolo now, it's an eyesore. Grass is overgrown.
All right.
If you go to Afuze, the same thing. In fact, my community are suffering. The landlords who built, some took loans to build hostels for these students. The hostels are empty.
All right.
The commercial activities, the economic and social activities of Emine and the Ekeadolo as we speak, it's nothing to write home about.
Are you
but
saying
a school that was never in existence, that started as a model secondary school.
all right, thank you.
Taking
I will come back to you. I would want you to go beyond this limit because the emotion is beginning to rise. Maybe there are reasons why just calm
Without
down.
prejudice, I speak.
Without prejudice. Now, no thanks or thanks to zoning. Anyway, don't answer that. I will come back to you. You've heard both of them.
Absolutely, I have.
Yeah, and they are saying that, look, zoning is sacrosanct because of the complex nature of Nigeria.
I want to quote what Denzel Washington, American movie star, actually made a statement, and I picked it. He said it wasn't easy for Winston Churchill. Neither was it easy for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, American longest-serving president, for 12 years when there was crisis. In as much as I agree with my brothers here, I feel it. I'm a Southern folks. I'm from this zone, so to say. I should be more concerned. But I've also come to understand that relevance is what will put you ahead. I love what my brother here just said a while ago, that we shouldn't sacrifice it on the altar of incompetence. Now, if El-Rufai, why I don't personally would have joined issues with El-Rufai, why I'm happy that it's El-Rufai saying this today, is the same El-Rufai that have been campaigning and shouting, crying around the country that it's the Northern's turn, it's their turn, zoning must not be kicked away. It's the same person that is saying this now. Why am I happy? Because he's invariably telling us this government has failed.
In what terms?
In what terms? Now, why are you saying so? Because if you are not saying we should leave zoning out of it on grounds of incompetence, people are viewing it from another angle. But the angle I chose to see it from, if the governor, or rather the government on board now, had done so well, he wouldn't come up with that. He is not saying we should leave this, we should negate zoning and just allow competence to thrive and not this issue of zoning. In other words, he's somewhat feeling some itch of regret and feeling like I have not done. Now, if we're looking at it from here, I agree that if we allow zoning to just go, we may not be there. I don't totally believe that. Because politics is all about interest. Because those that have been in power, like I've said, the zonings that have taken place, who have benefited from it? The larger majority of the people still suffer, still face the same hardship. Go to the north today now. I am happy he mentioned the north. And look at local government chairman who is in Abuja drinking tea. and these folks are suffering. So they are not benefiting from the so-called zoning. It's just that money is being shared among some few friends and allies, and that is how, and power is being controlled by so saying. That is how I see it. The people should rise up in the attempt to develop themselves. Let us get back to our domestic work. We have our ways of living hitherto. And yes, I know we say, well, I'm not saying we shouldn't participate in electoral processes, but I honestly believe if you are worthwhile, if we are doing well, nobody will ignore you. If you are up and doing, he said it was not easy for Winston Churchill. It was not easy for him. Yes, we may have had our setback. We must be ready to do the needful now. What are we doing now? We are debating who gets what. What have we done for ourselves? Our roads are not pliable. The light issue we are fighting, we are waiting for zoning. Who will be zoned tomorrow to come and do this? We had a Jonathan Goodluck. I have so much respect, huge respect for his love for the country and for his not wanting to spill the blood of the ordinary Nigerian. But my good question to my uncle and father, Jonathan, is, while you were president, how did you do, what did zoning do for us in the South? What did zoning do for the Edo people, the Bayelsans? I have been to Bayelsa, in short, it's an eyesore. What have you done? Yes, you were trying to be a national president, so to say. We don't want to go into issues of maybe I'm a president of the nation. That's correct. But at least you should understand that your people have so much needs. Nothing much was done. So I still maintain that I think we should go back and have a rethink. Now, the Great Benin Empire was known, was recognized by Britain. Why? Because of the exploits, because of activities that was going on. When they came to this land, they met a well-established, a metropolitan-like society. People were living, they have chiefs, they have roads, they have good network. We have system, a good system running. So we didn't really, if we were not doing well then, they would not have come. There were a lot of regions that Britain didn't go to. They came here and they had the Great Benin Massacre. What were they fighting for? For something worthwhile. They knew we had something. So I encourage our people in various zones and locations. So begin to look inward. Look at your environment. What were you good at way back? What were you doing? Even whoever is president, if El-Rufai is president tomorrow, I don't think it's going to affect my income. If Mr. Barrister Okedekpe is president, he's not going to start paying me from the treasury of government. It's what I have to offer that will bring funds to me. So we need to get back and reorientate our folks. Other than carrying placards, we will not allow this, or go to fight yourself in your political meetings and then start casting aspersion at each other. El-Rufai, celebrate him for his brains. He's an intelligent man. He's a great guy. I love him so much. But the truth is this. He's saying this because of his intention. He have right to it. He wants to be president too. Everybody wants to be president. You know, it's fine. It's his opinion. I don't see him doing anything wrong. But why I'm happy he's the one saying it, I have said this present administration have not done well. In my personal opinion, I have right to it, and I can give reasons why. I'm saying that. I have seen that people, things have not been going well, and the economy has gone down, and a whole lot of people. I know how many people beg for money every day, calling my phone when I don't have so much to give, and it has not been like this before. So with that alone, you should know there is crisis somewhere. Okay. So if we continue to canvass zoning, you will not only zone to Ms. Winston Marshall to be president, and when he's president, his phones are switched off, and I say he's my brother. All I know is that Winston Marshall is my brother. He is president of Nigeria. Yes, I'm supporting him. This zoning must work, and now he's president. He don't even care about me. And these are the issues we are looking at. So it's not about who. We must begin to look at the nation as a country, as one indivisible entity that it is, as Constitution has provided. Now, if you look at Obama today now, he didn't become president. I remember he was in tears, taking the oath of office. He said it's only in this country that this can happen. Okay. It's only in this country. So we must make it happen in other countries around the world.
All right, Perez, over to you. He's still maintaining, giving reasons why it may not be zoning. He also talked about the interest of El-Rufai, that is because he has political interest. Is this clamor by Governor El-Rufai shrouded in politics, or is what ought to be done in our country, Nigeria?
You have said it all. It's shrouded by politics, and cheap politics for that matter. El-Rufai is someone that should never be taken seriously, you know.
People may differ on that opinion.
Yes, he should never be taken seriously, because if you look at his comments during the last elections, when he talked about body bags and all that, you don't take such people seriously. People who make those kind of lousy comments, you know, for a governor to come out and say those kind of things, you don't take him. I personally don't take him serious. You know, if this agitation was coming from an independent person, someone who is not interested in contesting an election or who is not a politician, we would rather look at it, you know, with more seriousness. Now, for someone who is saying it simply because he's interested in contesting an election and he knows that the North has had power now or may have power for 8 years, depending on the current circumstances right now. And so after a Northerner is handing over power, then you also a Northerner will take over power. I mean, it's only the Northerners that are in this country. We just talked about, my brother just talked about looking at the security architecture of the country, the structure of the security. You have most of the security chiefs, you have them from the North, the director of SSS, the Inspector General of Police, the Chief of Army Staff, just name them. You know, you have all of them from one section. Even when we have a federal character that is backed by law, we still have this system where the president can bypass all this and just overlook and just appoint who he wants without consideration for the complexity of the Nigerian state. Now, let's just remove zoning entirely now. Let's remove it entirely. Then you have a system where you have only one dominant political group in the country who will continue to dominate. These are the same group who have done everything to remain that dominant group. For example, I talked about the 1992 census where they allocated fictitious numbers to some areas, some local governments in the North. They did this.
You don't have proof of that, please.
I have proof.
I have proof of that.
I have proof. I can tell you. And I made the example with the fact that if you go to some local governments in the North, there's virtually nobody. It's just grassland.
Now, since we don't work with the Population Commission, let's just leave that for now, for the sake of this discussion.
But we can delve on it, and I have reasons why I'm saying it. Now, if you go back and say, okay, let's just remove this zoning formula. Let's just remove it. Let's expunge it from our minds, not from the Constitution because it's not there. But in politics, we have what we call gentleman's agreements. It's there. It's always been there. It might be zoning formula today. It might be something else tomorrow. People come together. We're all political animals. We come together, we sit down, and we agree to form a system. Even the democracy we practice today is an agreement. It's an arrangement. You know, by law, democracy is an agreement. People agree to say, okay, we want to have this form of government. We agree and we put people there to represent us. That's an agreement. So even if you don't have it by law, you know, when you gather together to form a system, you've already had an agreement, a political arrangement, and that's what we have. And that's what zoning is. And zoning has been working for, if you compare the political landscape of Nigeria between 1960 to 1999, and you compare the political landscape between 1999 and 2019, you see a huge difference. Not necessarily in the lives of Nigerians, you know, because I will agree with my brother there, not necessarily in the lives of Nigerians. The lives of Nigerians have not improved over the years. The living standards of Nigeria have not improved over the years. The electricity has not improved since 1960. So a lot has not improved in terms of infrastructure. We still have a huge infrastructural deficit. But in terms of politics, we've had a system that has been largely undisturbed since 1999, simply because we have an agreement that power will go to the North, it will come to the South, it will go here, it will go there. We have some local government. Let's take Bayelsa State, for example. We had a very vibrant politician from Bayelsa State. What's his name? Ben Murray Bruce. He came out and said he's not going to run for a second term. The reason why he says he's not running for a second term is because in his local government, they had an agreement that power will shift from one local government to the next every 4 years. And that has been what has been giving them peace, that stability. And the Constitution of Nigeria, the Nigerian Constitution, the first thing it says that politicians should do, the first mandate is to make sure there is peace and welfare. And that is more important than any other thing. So if a man sees that, okay, if I'm not running, in as much as I'm competent and as I'm good, but the fact that if my running might destabilize my region, it might cause some instability, it might cause some chaos, then he decides to step aside, then he has done the right thing. That means zoning is actually working, it's actually bringing peace. You understand? Because if there's no zoning, then people will have this more agitation for power. And more agitation for power, knowing that power might not come from them, they have to fight for it, then it might cause lead to anarchy.
All right. Yes. Now, he talked about zoning working, but some regions, so to speak, in Nigeria have been clamoring that is their turn to be given a shot at when we talk about the presidency, the Eastern region. If zoning is working, how come it hasn't gotten to that region? Ayodeji.
That's a good one. I think as much as I agree to this zoning pattern, you see I digress a little why this zoning itself is still not favorable.
Yeah.
But the northerners, to be precise about, have not enjoyed this democracy since inception. I think the only slot they had was during the Second Republic when Shehu Shagari was president and Alex Ekweme, both of them of blessed memory, was the vice president. And since then, power has never returned.
Are you talking about the northerners or the easterners
I'm
right
talking
now?
of the easterners. You mentioned
right.
the easterners
Yes.
wanting to become president. So if we must even talk of this zoning working, I will canvass, though the easterners want to even go away from Nigeria.
Not all of them. We have some very minute group that say they want to leave.
But the Biafran state, if it is created, they will be in a further minority. So, but if we remain as we are presently, I support them having the slot. Because presently, the hopefuls or those who are contested to be president when it is zoned, I still from the same area. We have the likes of Tinubu and maybe our man. So I want to favor.
Sorry, who
are you talking about, Esquire? What are you talking about?
Let's visit our man.
All right, it's all right. I like our man. Continue.
Anything I say should not be used against me. So I'm talking in my own capacity.
All right.
So if it is allowed, these are people who are not even head matters. Since they've been in governance, what benefit have they brought to the masses? They keep promising. In fact, they've been recycling themselves. And I think if it is allowed to go to the north, to the east, there is no figure, a political figure there that I think will be as hard when we've not received favor from them. Because the Igbos, for example, they are very proactive and they are more open, more friendly and more enterprising. They will bring their acumen and their traits into governance, and I know Nigeria would be a better country if the Easterners were allowed to succeed in the 1966 coup. I'm sure the East would have been better than China by now. So I still, coming back to zoning, that the zoning formula being a gentleman agreement should be allowed to stay. If it is not allowed to stay, then we should be thinking of dividing the country.
No, nobody's talking about that now. What about the division of the country? Our unity is not negotiable. Please, watch that now.
If zoning is jettisoned, then we should forget about Nigeria, because we in the South will never taste power again because of the over-bloated population
in some regions.
In some regions, in fact, particularly the North. El-Rufai is interested in election, becoming the president. We all know this. But you should take his pedigree into consideration. When he was Minister of FCT, the havoc he did, he was demolishing land and acquiring them behind.
No, you don't know if he was acquiring
let
them
him see
behind
me.
the
Let
demolition.
him see me.
Yes,
I
but
have-
acquiring, we don't know about that. Talk about town planning, at least to give it a befitting
Yes,
federal
but
capital
there were
territory.
some properties he demolished and that were later traced to him. So I'm not afraid of arrest. Right from my primary school days, I've been an activist.
All right.
And unless I'm kid, I will never stop telling the
You
truth.
will never be killed.
I will never be killed. I will even overlook.
All right, thank you. But please watch your emotion. We're on air, so I wouldn't want to lay kind of a negative precedence. Even if it's your own opinion, you have to please watch some of the emotions. I will come back to you now. An example of the eastern region of Nigeria was cited, and it's like the zoning formula hasn't really gotten to that region. If we're only practicing zoning formula, so to speak, is it partial zoning or selective zoning? Is that what you're running right now in this country?
If I get your question right, what are you asking now?
Is it partial zoning or total zoning? Because you are not even for zoning. What are we practicing right now?
Well, I like I said,
Yeah.
you're an Hausa man, or an Igbo man, because of the way you're looking, a Yoruba man, and Hausa man, and some. We're just friends.
Yeah.
Then if I say, well, let's move the power from, okay, you will leave you for now, because of 1967, we will not bring you in. But bring one of your son or grandson to come down. We come from like northern, some region, stuff like that, and then we call it zoning. Now, what is this zoning really doing? It's about friends. Can't you get it? It's not about, we're talking about the country. I am seeing friends and their, extended relatives, as it were. That's how I'm saying it. Okay, Obasanjo had been there for how many years? We're still writing letter to date. For crying out loud, before we were born, the man has been there. Buhari of the same thing, and a whole lot of them. So they are our friends. They are people that have been together over time, and they are just pulling themselves like that. So those that are now, they are proteges and loyalists and all of that, pulling them gradually in. That is not what I'm looking at. Now, if you are talking about you, even if I would want to even accept zoning, what are the criteria for zoning? What would be the laid down procedure for this said zoning? And who are those that will be qualified? They should be screened. We don't want a situation whereby people that don't even understand the nitty-gritty of day-to-day transactions of government. I remember a particular governor, I won't mention his name, because in this state, or rather in this country, he will go to a particular father of blessed memory now. He will go and kneel down and ask him, what will we do in the government house today? A sitting governor did that in Nigeria. He will go to a particular father of his godfather, and kneel down and ask him, what will we be doing in the government? That one will not dictate to him. So what we are talking about, zoning partial or no partial, I am totally against it. I believe we have not, we still have, why we are not, I want to say we are not taking very serious issues seriously. Because we still have the oil pulling in, we're still picking money from the oil. We don't have crisis yet in Nigeria. We're only just, all the said crisis is just that you go to Somalia, you understand what we're talking about. We still have the money, we can still go there and then sell our crude oil, and then we're making money, and we're still funding our government and running up and down. That's why we are talking like this. If really we really need to think out of the box, we will not be talking zoning. We'll be talking about the nation, talking about this. People without certificates in power, people without, they don't even understand. When you ask them questions, they don't understand in power. People that don't really understand the inner workings of government in power. So what are the basics? So when you're talking of zoning, who are these persons in charge? Now, at times you hear a Nigerian talking, maybe in power or in government, and he's been asked, what's the question abroad? What about this? You hear a senior lawyer going abroad to say, well, the issues of the herdsmen killing is overblown out of proportion abroad, and you're coming back home, your pastors in your church have been adopted. These are things we see around. Really sincerity and people not speaking the truth. People not having the courage to do the needful. So it's not about zoning. Zoning is not the issue now. You may be an Hausa man, you are still guided, teleguided, and being streamlined not to do the needful. So these are some of the issues we are facing. We cannot grow like this. It's like you keep me in a room like this, you want me to exploit the world. Where will I go through? Our young people are talking, you are talking zoning. Look at our young people. We are talking here. Many of them are planning to get out of school and nothing to show for it. I know many people who had to go through, and at the end of the day, for 13, 14 years of their graduate life, nothing to show for it. We are talking zoning. So these are the issues. Okay. And why will that young man or that young lady not get a little, fund of money, come with me and then go spend the night somewhere? You are saying she's some prostitute. The young man is being lured into some dastardous act and you say he's a criminal. Now, the society have not done well. And then the issue of zoning, this money, we're all running around to become, I want to be member of the house, I want to be governor, I want to be president. Now, having been president, having been governor, if it's really to serve, why are you dying to be? Why do you want to remain there? Why do you perpetuate yourself? Even the one that say, well, I will, spill my blood to ensure that all Chibok girls are real. Why are we killing ourselves? Now, the point I'm making, my brother, don't get it wrong. I'm trying to say that the whole idea of zoning, partial zoning, the Igbos being marginalized, so to say, is clear. I'm not an Igbo man. I know the Igbos have been marginalized in Nigeria. I can say that. I have proofs. But the good thing about this is our God. There are ways He pushed them out, and you see them flourishing outside of this country. Go to America today, you see all of them. Look at Chimamanda, look at all of them, a good number of them, taking lead and being representative, being in Congress and everywhere. And look at how they are flourishing out there. So if you don't appreciate, even in the Bible that I'm reading and I continue to read, He said Jesus came to His own in John, and His own received Him not. And He said, as many that will receive Him, to them He has given power to become sons of God. So people, if you despise us here, we can go out there and be wonderful people.
All right.
So now, sorry to put it. So Orena has talked about revolution, and now he's been ahead. He's head there now. There's somebody who have taught, who have lectured, who have done well for himself. Do you think Sorore is really looking for one era to really eat per se? I think he's comfortable to a large extent, but he is not comfortable because of what is happening. Because it gets to a time in your life, even if you have lived abroad, you've made the money, you are ashamed of your country because people begin to cast aspersion at you. You are this erudite person, you are a professor, you are this, you are that, you are a good lawyer, barrister, you are a lawyer, you are talking about your school. Are you going back to that school? You are not going there. He's feeling it because this is our alma mater, this is where we started from, and now it has been overtaken by
Thank you.
Issues we must be looking at other than talking zoning, no impartial zoning. I think those things are not
all right.
issues at all.
Okay, now we want to go for a break, but before we do that, Farais, I want to take your kind of a bite at this. What do you think should be the solution right now? Because it's the happening on the need of Nigeria to go forward without allowing zoning to really be cloud out judgment before we go for that break.
We should not throw away history.
Okay.
If you go back to the 1967 civil war in Nigeria, if you look before that war and why Nigeria had to go to war, yes, the civil war, it is the imbalance of power. At that point, a lot of people in the north felt that the Easterners were controlling everything, from the civil service to government to everything. It was the East, because there was this ethnic jingoism that evolved the whole country at that time. So people were only interested in promoting their own ethnic agenda. And as at that time, we had this ethnic tension that was boiling. It reached a boiling point and exploded into civil war. Because then the North was accusing the East of controlling the whole country, controlling everything. The East was attacking the North, that the North is interested in power. And eventually when the North had power, it felt like a retaliation against the East. And the Easterners felt, we want to go. And before you knew it, where
was a war.
there was a war, and 3 million Nigerians lost their lives in that war. And then that's more than the population of Guinea-Bissau and Cote d'Ivoire, and Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde put together. You know, so let's not throw away history. You know, we always learn from history. Right. The truth is that right now we have a country that is very polarized, and we must be very careful in thinking that we are America or we are Great Britain. You know, let's walk it a step at a time. In as much as we need competent people to handle governance in Nigeria, we also need to look at the intricacies of government.
All right.
And where we are coming from and where we are going to. So we should not throw away that.
Okay, thank you so much. Ayodeji, your last line on this.
I want us to revisit this 1979 Constitution as amended. I think to a greater extent, the contents are not helping us. A constitution should be that freely given by the people to themselves, not a constitution that is imposed on us.
Right.
I think that is one of the fundamental problems we are facing in this country.
Okay.
Let us converge again and draft a constitution that will take cognizance of all these lapses and enhance our oneness as a country.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen.